Welcome to another episode of Let's Be Honest, Chaos and Clarity in Education, where we have authentic conversations with educational leaders who are transforming schools, developing people, and challenging the status quo. What if one of the greatest untapped resources for improving student achievement isn't another curriculum or initiative, but the fathers who have been waiting to be invited into the conversation? Today, we're honored to welcome the authors of the recently published book, The Dad Difference, written by Dr. Deborah R. Higdon and Dr. Chacko Abraham. Their work challenges us to rethink how schools partner with fathers to improve student success. Now, let's turn it over to your hosts, Dr. John Nash and Dr. Linton Atkinson.
Could each of you briefly share your educational journey and experiences that ignited your passion for strengthening the partnership between schools and fathers?
I'll go ahead and go first. Thank you so much for having us here. I can tell you that my path to become an educator was not the normal path. I actually had no plans of becoming a teacher. I went to college to become a nurse, and I am a registered nurse. I loved nursing and did that until I had my son. And when I had my son, at the same time, hospitals were changing from 8-hour shifts to 12-hour shifts. And that was a big problem. I was a new mom. I needed to be home with my child. And I happened to have a conversation with my sister, who was a teacher at that time. And she said, "Why don't you become a school nurse?" I poo-pooed on that, like, school nurse? No, I am an RN, critical care nurse. I would not lower my standards to become a school nurse. About 4 months went by with me on those 12-hour shifts. And I called her one day in tears and said, "Can I get an application? I want to be a school nurse. I got to stop this." And so I took a drastic cut of pay. Around the same time, unfortunately, my marriage was falling apart. So I moved from the Philadelphia area to the Maryland area with my then 10-month-old son, became a school nurse for a few years for Baltimore County schools, and then found out that I had to become a teacher for them. A school nurse needed to be a teacher. I became a teacher. I ended up teaching high school for 10 years, an assistant principal for 6 years, and then a principal for 11 years. I retired in 2020, but in 2021, they asked me to come back, and now I am an administrative substitute for school system, same one that I was the principal and teacher, et cetera, for. And I go to different schools. I've been at 15 different schools whenever a principal or assistant principal is out sick.
That is amazing. It's an amazing resume there. And I learned something new. You had to be an educator to be a nurse back then.
In some counties, and in Baltimore County, that was the requirement.
Wow.
Dr. Abraham?
Yeah, thank you guys again for allowing us to share in this space and just really dig a little deeper into how we can really incorporate that missing piece of dads, right? So, and my journey really has taken a different tangent. You know, of course, having taught in classrooms, been a school administrator, and working with dads, being a seminary student and being a chaplain in training now, I've seen a lot of different ways how these lenses that we put on and seeing what's missing, it becomes more and more clear of how the component that we're really trying to address is our students, our children, right? And so having lived overseas and traveled overseas allowed me to also see a global perspective on education and family engagement. Now, in going through these cultures, I've experienced one thing clearly: the fact that when fathers are really involved, they really thrive, right? And so no matter what our roles that we step into and what kind of background we have, one thing is clear: like it's when we ignite that passion of children within their schools, we know that they will succeed. And I've met a lot of dads who wanted to help but didn't know how. And so it's just starting my career in PG County as a classroom teacher, and I'll go into that a little later, but that moment was really critical for me that year of my first year teaching, because you go through teacher education program, they don't teach you a lot of these things hands-on of what you're going to face, right? What you're going to face. And so it's great to learn methodology and, all those, wonderful things. So you're looking at, pedagogical approaches, but the practical pieces of family partnership with the children that we were trying to serve is missing. And so it really allowed me to see that the father engagement really isn't like it's a family issue. It's really a school improvement issue. Once we can get the schools connected with the families, we know the children that we're serving, and I use the word serving very heavily. We are serving these children that we know that they will succeed no matter what.
I hear the passion when you speak, and I love it because Dr. Nash and I have a passion for involving fathers as well, because we're involved fathers. Dr. Abraham, I gather you're in Kazakhstan, and Dr. Higdon, I gather you're in Maryland. So
Yes.
how did you meet? How did you make this transatlantic connection work? And what influenced or inspired you to write The Dad Difference?
Go ahead, Deborah. I'll let you take the lead on this.
Well, we both had signed up for Bond Academy, and it happened to be during COVID. I was there as attending a conference on father engagement, something that I had started as an assistant principal, because when I switched from a nurse to a teacher, I didn't realize that when something was going on, people never called fathers. As a school nurse, if a child is sick, you call mom, dad, grandma, whoever. So I was used to always engaging fathers. When I became a teacher, I continued that. When I became an assistant principal, I continued engaging fathers on a regular basis until I was challenged once and told that fathers don't care and that they're not involved and that many of them aren't even in the home. And I had to prove not only that person who said it, but a whole school wrong with that. So I became known as the one who engaged fathers, and the Board of Education recognized the program I started called Father Circle. So the Bond Academy was having a conference, and I said, I'm going to attend virtually. It was all virtual because of COVID, to learn. Dr. Chacko Abraham was the presenter. He was in Bolivia at the time. And while he was in the middle of his great presentation, the internet went out and he was disconnected. So there was a whole lot of us online, and people were like, what happened to the professor? Is he coming back? And somebody asked a question and said, oh, I wanted to ask him a question. And I started answering it. And then they asked another question and I answered. And they said, well, how do you know this much? And so I gave them my background and the things I had done with father engagement and the Father Circle at Kingsview Middle School and how it had extended to other schools. Dr. Abraham had come back on, but I didn't realize it. And finally, through the chat, people were saying, get off, stop, he's on. So I finally said, oh, he's here. I am sorry. I stayed on another minute or two, and then I got off. And I remember turning to my husband and saying, I've got to let the Bond people know what I did. I need to apologize to this professor. I know he thinks I'm the rudest person on earth. But by Monday, he was reaching out to me and saying that he was going to write a book. And this was the key for me, that he prayed about it. And God said, she's the one to co-author with you. And he and I talked, and we both prayed about it. And we came to the same conclusion that this was divine intervention for us to come together, because our hearts are there to bring the hearts of fathers back to their children.
As you all say in the South, Dr. Nash, it's a God thing.
That's right. That's right.
So one question. Oh, please.
No, please go ahead.
So I would like to just probe you a little deeper, and I love the topic of engaging fathers, and we find that many of our fathers are so often underrepresented. But why? What is the why behind fathers not, or why fathers are so often overlooked group in education?
I'm going to start this and then give it to Chacko. For me, I found that there were two things: demographics and the myths. The demographics being that the majority of staff in most schools, especially if you're talking about elementary and middle, you'll find more when you get to high school, depending on the high school you're in. But the demographics of school is mainly females. And then if we break that down even further, there's more culturally a certain type of female, a certain race of female. And if you look back at some of the myths about males and males of color, there's been a hesitancy of these types of females to reach out to them. They're much more comfortable just talking to the mom. And again, I go back to how I got involved in this. It was a teacher who said, these kids don't have fathers. And if they do, they don't care. They're in jail, or, you know, they're unavailable. And I'm like, what are you talking about? That's not true. I've been calling them and talking to them. And here I was, the assistant principal. I'm new, I'm an administrator. I'm doing their evaluations, this particular teacher's evaluation too. And she called me a liar.
Wow.
Yeah. That's how much power, even though I was the superior one as far as position, but that's how much positional power she felt she had in that school and over me.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had to prove her wrong. But many people felt that same thing. And I found not only did she feel that, some of the staff and teachers of color felt the same way. And so that myth that fathers don't care, or that myth that children don't have fathers. Chacko and I recently did a presentation, and I told people, I said, let's just look at the biology of this first. If you go with biological evidence,
Yes.
the overwhelming majority of children born in the world are not through artificial insemination. So biology says that that answer is wrong. And if we start there, then we can start having more intelligent conversations about bringing in and engaging fathers.
Absolutely right. And I always hear people say that that's such a myth, especially about Black fathers, right? My daughter and I just came back from a trip. We went to Japan and Thailand together, and we always travel together. And I've always been involved in her life and education. We also did the Amazing Race together, the first father-daughter duo, Black father-daughter duo. Yes, season
Yes,
34.
but I saw you and didn't know you.
See, so we have
Yes.
to represent everywhere. We got to represent. But Dr. Abraham, how do you define authentic father engagement or male engagement?
I mean, when you're looking at, and I'll tell you what, I'm coming from the flip side where Deborah's coming from a secondary school perspective. I'm coming from an elementary school perspective. My first teaching assignment is a kindergarten classroom. Now, when you're in elementary space, it's usually female dominated, right? And so you'll be lucky if you have maybe 2, maybe 3 male staff in a school physical building.
Mm-hmm.
And guaranteed, I can tell you, the building services was 1, PE teacher, 2nd male, and if you're lucky, you'll have a classroom teacher as a 3rd male.
Yes.
And so most of my time, it's, you know, and on the flip side, I'm ready to call dads and not moms. You know, for anything I need in my classroom, I'm calling dads, right? I'm more comfortable calling dads, right? And so moms are always there. So, you know, having, you know, starting my career out in PG County Public Schools in a very highly impoverished neighborhood, the dads weren't showing up, not because they aren't there. They're there, right? Things are holding them back. I mean, you're looking at these dads who might have been through the school system, might have had a negative experience, had come across, you know, an education system that didn't support them, that didn't encourage them, that didn't put a spotlight on saying, we believe in you, right? It could be barriers of time, barriers of work. But one thing that's, I think, you know, that I started doing from the first year on was inviting these fathers into the classroom. Yeah. When we actively engage to invite them, that is what we have to do, you know? And so for me, for back to school night was a big night. Back to school night with moms and dads, that was like the big thing. Everybody comes out for back to school night, right? And so we hand out volunteer forms per family. But I kind of flipped that around. I gave each person coming in, each father, each mother, a volunteer form. So guess what? I want to hear from each one of you. You guys have different hobbies, different likes, different skill sets that you're bringing to the table, you know? And so you'll be surprised how many dads would volunteer in my classroom on a weekly basis during math, during reading, during science. They would come in, you know, 3 to 4 dads a week, with no doubt about it, will come in. And so I realized right from the get-go, the invitation to come on in, that door is open. And this chair is for you to be alongside your child in this journey, right? And so I think the key is really inviting these dads back into space that they have a right to be in, right?
And I want to say something that you just said, Chacko, a right to be in, because we have to redefine parent for schools. A parent is a mother and a father, or a father and a mother, or just one of them. It's not just a mom. Fathers aren't extra. They're not the one that we call only in an emergency. They are also a partner, a value partner in schools.
So Dr. Abraham and Dr. Higdon, what are some of the most common barriers that prevent fathers from becoming actively involved? And what can we do as school leaders to remove those barriers?
Well, I think some of the common things is definitely work schedules, right? Our work schedules hold our parents back, both moms and dads, to really kind of be engaged. And so you're looking at work schedules, and I mean, how often are the communication tools sent out to both moms and dads? Now, we're not in a nuclear family situations anymore. We have a whole different levels of dynamics family structures, right? And so what is holding the schools from allowing each, the mothers and the fathers, to know what's going on with their child in that school that week? And I think a lot of times dads don't know how to contribute, right? We're going away from just doing these entry level donuts for dads kind of things, right? It's just entry level. It's just get in, get out. But we're trying to bring them in and keep them there, right? And so, how do we, kind of, you can't erase what they've gone through, in the school system that they've experienced, but we can try to change that. So these barriers that our fathers have been through, it's not diminishing those experiences, but it's saying we need you here now, and so there are multiple barriers. I mean, things that we can't even imagine, but what we can do is to invite them in, and allow them to know you are welcomed in this space at any time.
And I think the other thing with the time and the schedules, we don't have to have everything after school. You can have meetings during school. With technology, we can do so many things virtually. We can have things that happen in the community center, as opposed to if most of the people don't have transportation, you can talk to a local church and have something at a church where people can walk. So we really have to get creative. The other thing we have to do to get more dads, and this has been a big barrier, is change what we call helping. For many schools, they'll say, we need classroom moms. But when you hear that, you've just eliminated all of the fathers, father figures, the big brother, the grandfather, the uncle, the stepdad. You've just pushed them out. So we have to change that narrative and change that wording so that it's more inclusive and not so exclusive.
Now, this is not just a U.S. thing. Internationally, in the school systems that I've been in, I've participated in the PTAs and all these agencies within the schools, and it's the same thing there. It's just like, in their school chats, like, hola, mamas. I was like, what? How about me? And so it's just like the inclusivity of the fact that, what, we're all here in this together, right? We're in this together.
I'm hearing some great strategies that you're putting out there for folks to pick up in terms of a classroom dad, not just a classroom mom, and also inviting dad to sit in a chair and see what's happening to support the children. I also hear, okay, when you send home communication, don't just send it for mom, send it for dad as well. So great strategies. Your research also speaks to how involved dads can actually positively impact student success. Can you speak more clearly about how that can actually impact attendance, academic performance, or behavior?
Yeah, I want to say that there's so many things that you get that are the intangibles you don't think about. When we talk about inviting fathers in. The first and the main reason for schools is the academics. We want every child to be academically successful. And so what we found with our research personally, and then when we extended it to the academic side, is that was what was already stated, that when fathers are involved, students do well academically, even if they're not as visible, if they're involved at home. But there's a difference that happens when they start to come into the building, when you see their face, when they are the chaperones for the different field trips, when you have dad observation days and they're walking around the building all day long, when they're doing the clap ins and the clap outs, and when they're there as like that God lead, and everybody walks past, nothing but rows of fathers saying, you got this, you can do this, we believe in you. All of a sudden, the culture in the building changes. Kids will tell you over and over again, and Chacko and I have seen this in all of the buildings and the around the world for him that we've been in, the kids say they feel safer. Another thing that we've seen happens, teachers teach better. One of my secret weapons, when I started realizing what fathers were going to bring, I bring the dads in and I have them just happen to start going in this hallway, in this classroom, around here, there, because it's just like if you have company coming to your house. Now, if somebody come to my house and I don't know, you might catch it, especially if my grandkids have been around, you might catch it a certain way. But if I know you're coming, if I know and I've invited you, I'm gonna clean up a little bit. When they know those dads are in, they clean that whole thing up. And then the other thing that we have seen is the behaviors in the hall. And these men aren't saying anything other than, hey, how you doing? Just their presence. It cleans up the behavior. The boys dress differently. The girls dress differently when so-and-so's dad and granddad and so-and-so's down in the hall. So now the academics are improved because the behaviors are improved. Another thing that has happened, and this is huge, gentlemen, a lot of our schools are having problems with attendance. And they talk about getting the kids in the building, but there's a bigger problem. And this problem is impacting a lot of our educational data. It's that internal truancy. And internal truancy is kids are in the building, but they're not in class. And so when you look at the assessment data, sometimes that assessment data is more a reflection of not what's being taught. It's what's not being taught because the kids aren't in the seats. Oh, they're in the school, they're in the cafeteria, they're in the halls, they're in the bathroom, they're at the cut, they're here and there. They're in another teacher's classroom, that nice teacher who lets everybody come and sit there instead of going into their class. And so when the fathers are there and they're walking around, it eliminates that internal truancy. Now, when they go in class and they go in class consistently and they start to do the work, they realize there's a connection between their presence and them being able to learn, and the academic soars and it stays up. It never comes back down. And it doesn't even have to be their father. That's the other beauty of this. That's, I mean, I can't emphasize that enough. When people, well, this one's father and that one's father, don't worry about the who so much. Get them in, they'll start working that out. But their presence does something for these kids, because a lot of the kids, even those whose fathers are in the home, they don't see their fathers until it's later in the evening or on the weekend. And they have this feeling that of comfort when males are there, because they're not used to seeing them in that environment. You get used to seeing the female teachers. When fathers come in, it signals something different to them.
I think the pathway is clear here. You're going from, father engagement and going all the way to student success, right? But the pieces in between really are looking at school climate and looking at student support. When the dads come in, the school climate changes.
Yes.
The student support, there's accountability, because there's relationships that occur in the process from this point to this point. And we're trying to get dads to stay in the whole way through. We're not trying to do just, entry points and that's it. We're trying to bring dads in, keep them there. And in the end, they are actual contributors and to transform these schools long term. So that's the goal.
No more biscuits and donuts.
Mhm.
So thank you for sharing strategies for school leaders within the school building. But from a district leadership perspective, if a superintendent wanted every principal to improve father engagement, what expectations or systems would you encourage them to put in place?
That's an
Well-
excellent question. They have to be the ones that say, we need you. We want you. That messaging from them is so important. And they really need to do it now. Now is the time. Don't wait until, back to school and all that. Why is it that the superintendents of every single district knowing the same things? This research isn't somewhere that's hidden that we had to go under a rock and find and go like, oh, voila, look at what we found. It's right there. We all know it. And see, to know and yet not to do is wrong. Bible was saying sin, but we ain't gonna go there. But to know and not do it, that's wrong. So we have to tell them, use this opportunity. We have this window now that collides with the research, and we're seeing that our data as a country in particular is worse than it was 50 years ago. We've tried the billions of dollars, as was stated earlier. We tried this technology, this change in curriculum. Let's bring in the one who's already committed, who's right here in your neighborhood at no cost, and sit down and say, how can we partner together with you for your children, for our community? And let's do this and let's grow. And we talk about that in the DAG difference. We give you the strategy from, I don't even know what father engagement is, to I already have a program, it's stale, how do I jumpstart it? What if I'm talking to an administrator who says, yeah, but we even give you the language to use because we've done it, we've lived it. But we're at a point where we can't keep doing the same thing and expecting different results. We see the insanity of it. How long are we going to wait for this magic bullet for our kids that hasn't come? We're the cavalry. Gentlemen, the three of you, we're who we've been waiting for.
But when you think about it also, fellas, it's what gets measured gets improved, right? If you can measure it, you can improve it. You got data to drive it, so you're looking at from a district perspective. I mean, this is not optional activity. Dads, we need the fathers here. We need to get them involved, right? So you're looking at, superintendent saying, hey, principals, here you go with specific measurable goals. You got to get that data. How many dads are coming in for events? How many dads are coming in for volunteering? How many dads are a part of the leadership team in deciding how does this school move forward, right? And build that relationship. And then really finally looking at investing like professional learning, leadership skills towards the administrators and the teachers to say, this isn't just an optional activity. It's a school improvement effort. I mean, we're talking about, stronger schools, stronger families, stronger communities. The product here is stronger communities, right? And so if we can have superintendents and school districts measure, instead of saying, check off that list saying father, family engagement, strategic plan idea done for the year, one event, I'm done. But these events don't really allow this contribution and transformation to happen in the schools. So it takes a conscious effort and an intentionality that needs to occur within the schools from a big picture perspective.
I think there are two major events for dads during the year. It's Donuts with Dads and Dads Bring Your Kids to School.
Yeah.
Right. Those are the only ways that most schools celebrate bringing dads in. But your book, first of all, what's the cost? Where do we get it? And then because of reading The Dad Difference, what is your expectation or vision for, let's say, my school within the next 5 years?
Mm-hmm. So the book is The Dad Difference, How and Why to Invite Fathers into Your School. It can be purchased at the publisher site, which is ASCD. or .org, or it can be purchased on Amazon. And when I looked on Amazon, it was $32. I would say that is minimal compared to what this book will do. What this book does is it not only talks about why we have to engage fathers now based on what the research and the data is saying. It gives us those strategies as to how to get started, even giving questionnaires and surveys to schools, to PTAs, to administrators, to gather their own data to see who's been invited and who's been excluded. But then it gives you the language to begin to invite fathers and to let them know this is an opportunity to engage with your school. The other thing it does is it gives you some strategies as other than the dads and donuts. For example, one of the strategies that was huge that I did with several schools was read posters. If you go around a lot of schools, they have those read posters and they'll have like a famous author or a soccer player, etc. That's nice, but the kids don't know them. We had our fathers come in with books that they had read and did the read posters. And then we had not only their children, but they could invite friends. They could have a student maybe whose father lives out of state or out of the country. There are situations where kids' fathers are incarcerated. So if we knew as administrators that maybe the father was incarcerated, but they could come in and be with that particular father in a group. We never had a singleton father. We always had him with groups of kids taking read posters, and we put them up and rotated them at different times. These things were such a big hit, those read posters. Kids were coming and taking selfies with the posters. Grandparents came in and wanted to take a selfie with the poster of the kid and the father. And we had more than enough fathers who came in to do it. We had fathers do announcements. So whenever we get around to that slump, anywhere around October, November, and whenever you go on the PA announcement, you hear wah, 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 all of a sudden now a father would come in and say, I'm John Nash, so-and-so's dad. And this is a word for you today, encouraging word. Cost you nothing. Everybody has cell phones. Just record it on a cell phone, send it in, and it's done. Do a video and it's in. Come in during lunch and do a skills workshop during lunch. We've had them come in and do that. Come in and just sit down in the cafeteria and have groups. You have problems in cafeterias? Have groups of fathers come in and just sit on the stage somewhere and watch them and just sit there and watch. And this is pre-K through 12. And they just gravitate to them. So we give strategies like that, things that can be done. But there's another part that we talk about in here, and that's the mental health benefit. As men get older, a lot of men don't have the same friend groups like women. We have our bestie from kindergarten, but men tend to just drop off. And if they have a good friend, they're lucky. Women, we have 10 good friends, 10 besties. When they start coming together, they found a need to sit and talk, different ages, helping each other, coming together, not only about issues with the school, but the community in their own lives. And they all of a sudden realized that was the missing link in their life too, this camaraderie. And they also could feel how valued they were in the school setting. And it did so much to just buoy their egos and just push them up even higher to see that this is necessary. This is needful. Fathers were the difference, the dad difference. It doesn't take another curriculum. It doesn't take an extra $6,000 course, but it will cost you $32 and I think 59 cents.
Which is not bad. That's the minimal cost. Very good.
Definitely worth it.
It's worth it.
I'm thinking of getting that for my dads. You're already giving me some ideas for the next school year. Maybe a group of dads just reading this book together and just mobilizing them for more involvement in the community. So definitely going to be reading this book and introducing it to my community.
At the end, we actually interviewed 9 fathers. They're all young fathers like you all, who have children of school age, pre-K through college. And they talked about how they felt when they were in school And some of them grew up with their fathers, some didn't. A couple knew their father and had a decent relationship. One or two knew their father, but didn't have a good relationship. And one did not ever know his father at all. And we interviewed them, and their interviews are here. And several people have said when they've gotten to this point in the book and they read their interviews, that it was an emotional journey for them. Everyone sees themselves somewhere in there, in those 9 men. They see a father who did things that was great and they celebrate him, or they see a wanting, something that they wish that they had had. But they all walk away, and especially every male walks away saying, but I'm going to break that chain of pain, that cycle of pain, and I'm going to make sure I'm that dad difference for my kids. Even older men have said to me, I don't have a child in school now, but since reading your book, I'm going to do things differently as a dad, as far as my engagement and my involvement, because I don't ever want my kid to look back at me and think he could have done better.
Yes.
So this book is more than just what's happening in schools. And this is why this is good for civic groups. It's good for churches. I have a church who's already contacted us. Chacko and I are going to be talking to them about doing just this, a book study with a men's group, so that we can talk about the needs of men in a very healthy way.
Yes.
But
And
I
as
think
we're going on the positive. Yes, Chacko.
I mean, what you're doing right here, Dr. Atkinson, with your daughter, I mean, that right there is monumental, brother. The presence is monumental. You know, it's saying it's never too late to show up. You know, we don't need perfect fathers. We just need a dad who shows up.
Yes.
That connection of presence is important. You know, whether our children are in kindergarten, high school, college, it doesn't matter, right? It's just the fact that, you know, our presence and the fact that we still believe in everything they do matters, right?
Right.
I mean, the thing is, we all mess up without a doubt, right? And for some, best time to become maybe to become engaged might have been years ago, but the second best time is today. We move on from here, right? And so that presence and just allowing our fathers to know you matter.
You matter.
As much as your children, you matter. You know?
So there are some fathers who believe that it's too late to make a difference in their child's educational journey. What message would you like to leave them with?
The same message right there. I mean, the fact that, you know, the fact that Dr. Atkinson is doing these things, making time, carving time out, being intentional, you know, find a moment to read a book with your child. Find a moment to ask that one question that you want to ask. Start a conversation, you know, just being intentional, being an intentional father is so critical. I mean, we get so caught up in life. No, we get so caught up in life, and it happens to me too. I have 3 children, you know, Eli's going to be 20 tomorrow. Maya's 18 and Zara is 12. Here's the deal. One of my buddies told me, oh, you got 3 kids. It's a piece of cake for you, man. You know, you got this parenting thing down packed, right? I said, With each one comes a different set of skill sets that I have to develop, right? And so I'm learning as they're growing, because each one needs something different. And so it's the intentionality that the fathers that I work with, I say, look, you know, every day is different. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But you have to be intentional in trying to be present in their lives somehow. You know, and I mean, school is an easy way to say, you know what? Just come on in. We need you here. We need you here. You don't have to come up with any kind of grand schemes or plans on how to be involved in our schools. We just want you to come in. We want you here, you know? And so it's just to know that, you know what? We reset today. We reset our path today, and let's start from today. You know, forget about what happened in the past. Start today. And so just giving our fathers that perspective of you matter and you matter today. Let's start doing something together for our children together. And that's it, you know.
You matter today.
Mhm.
Love it. Man, you have given us some amazing gems today. We thank you so much for being with us, Dr. Higdon and Dr. Abraham. And like I said before, I'm looking forward to reading this book and to sharing it with my community. We will definitely be in touch with you because this is such a work that is needed everywhere. And we just want to say kudos to all the fathers out there who are doing an amazing job already. And for the fathers who are inspired by what you're saying and are now willing to be more involved, and for those who aren't willing to get them involved, well, thank you for thinking about that. We also want to thank Dr. Nash because I watch him being a father online as well. I see the pictures he posts with his daughter. His daughter is a mini Dr. Nash. She looks just like him. And she's doing amazing things out there in TV world as an anchor. And he's an exemplary dad as well. So it's great to be around brothers who are doing exactly what you're saying, and we just want to get more involved. For those who are watching, we want you to make sure you subscribe to this channel and you follow us for more content. And again, we want to thank Dr. Higdon and Dr. Abraham for being here with us. And thank you so much for being on Let's Be Honest podcast, Chaos and Clarity in Education.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.